What is the ultimate, or the ultimate meaning of various aspects of this film? Stanley said, how do you describe in words Beethoven's Fifth Symphony? You can't, because every human being that listens to that music brings their particular persona to the experience, and they have a private experience, probably very different. And he said, 2001 is a visual symphony. And to prove it, I don't know how many of you have never seen this film? Any of you? Very few, okay. Well, you have an experience ahead of you. I'm just going to ask you those people, when you hear the Blue Danube, what do you think of? I bet you think of Vienna or a river. But all the rest of you who have seen the film probably think of space. Which of those two reactions is the correct one? Neither. They're both correct. And that, in a sense, is what meant. That's why we're sitting here 50 years later. And that's partly what makes this film so extraordinary. Kubrick did not over-explain things. He allowed every human being who sees this film bring their own experience and interpret it in their own way.
He treated the audience with tremendous respect.
Pardon me?
He treated the audience with tremendous respect. And I think it's important to note that the theme to 2008, also Sprach Zarathustra, it was the first time that a classical tune went into the pop charts and became #1. Which is a remarkable feat. And I do a lot of radio, and I've done a lot of television. When I played that music, everybody, you're correct, they immediately associated with 2001: A Space Odyssey. But it was around for years, hundreds of years before 2001: A Space Odyssey. And that's what it's married to.
I'm going to tell you something that the waltz. Stanley used it in Path to Glory. And when Kirk Douglas tells George McCree and the other actor that, they fired on their own troops, there's a huge dance going on out in the ballroom. And Kirk Douglas walks over and he opens up the door. And the Blue Danube comes pouring in. And then they say, Colonel Dax, and Douglas turns. And they realize they've got a problem. I don't know if you've ever seen Path to Glory, but it's a great game. But anyway, the Blue Danube comes pouring in. And I've been a Kubrick fanatic ever since I was about 16 years old, so I know all those films very close. And I'm just letting you know, that was a singular thing in his career, that film, of that piece of music.
He changed the marriage of music and film forever. After 2001. Contrary to what is been reported, I've seen it reported that 2001: A Space Odyssey was a flop. It wasn't a flop, it did tremendously well, but it was taken off cinema screens around the world because they'd locked in a film called Ice Station Zebra with Rock Hudson. And it was Rock Hudson who said at a premiere of 2001: A Space Odyssey, he got up in the middle of the film and said, "This is bullshit," and walked out of the theatre.
That's true. Well, this film, when it opened in 1968, it went to, first it opened in Washington, D.C., then the next night it was New York, and then Los Angeles. More than 60% of the critical reviews were not good. Some were quite terrible. And at the New York premiere, 250 people walked out. And MGM was very worried about this film at that point, and yet, 2 months later, there were lines around the block. And who made up those lines? The young generation of that era. It was the young people who were protesting the Vietnam War. That was the age group that was making this a success. So much so that MGM thought maybe they were smoking funny cigarettes. So they came out with a new poster. The new poster was 2001: A Space Odyssey, the ultimate trip.
I could add a little something to that. Keir is from the East Coast, I'm from the West Coast, and when we were first talking about the film, I left Los Angeles, went to Denver, into Detroit. I got all the really great towns. Keir's doing New York and Boston, and I'm in Denver and Detroit, right after the riots. But no. Yeah. So I got down to Houston, and just want to let you guys know something. I've told Keir this before, but when we got to Houston, Stanley was in New York, and I called him. And I said, Stanley, the MGM are getting us to the wrong audience. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I've been here in Houston for the morning. And no, I've been in the last town, and we got bad press. I said, we have to do something. He said, well, what do you think we ought to do? So I got this idea. I said, send me out a really smart New York kid, you know. So Michael Kaplan came. We got to Houston, and I turned to Mike and I said, Mike, listen, we're not getting to the right people. And he said, well, what do you think we got to do? And I said, well, what we'll do is we'll invite everybody, the underground press, the colleges, and we'll also invite, you know, the Houston Chronicle and the Houston Globe, or whatever the hell it was. And we'll get them all in a tape, and we'll tell them I'm sick. We really did this. And we'll tell them that I've been on the road and that I'm sick. And I'm an actor, I can fake it. So we got the croissants and all the, you know, the free things that everybody wants. And so we're all sitting in a big table. And the only questions came from the young people. The older people wanted to see rock concert. They wanted to see Doris Day. The older press, you know, they didn't know what was the apogee of the orbit, or, you know, what was the escape velocity. They didn't know it. It was the young guys who would take it. So how do you guys portray escape velocity? Well, we don't need to. We're already, you know, I can answer some of the questions. And also, I got to meet Neil Armstrong that morning. Anyway, afterward, we had this wonderful meeting, and then the MGM rep said, I said to him, okay, tell them that I feel better this afternoon, and we can get the top newspapers and people back for a private interview. And when they came back in the afternoon, they were not only more respectful, but they were more enlightened. So I called Stanley back in New York, and I said, you know, we're going to have to do something. So eventually, the whole campaign shifted as we talked. And then eventually the movie became known as The Ultimate Trip. And it's because everybody was dropping acid or getting loaded and watching the movie.
I still remember that to this day.
I personally can't remember them.
I have to ask you, look, I think before we go any further, I'd like to say a word of gratitude to Christopher Nolan, because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be watching this on the screen this year at all. It would have been probably thrown away to video, to DVD and Blu-ray.
I don't know if I buy into that. He does. I don't. I don't think Christopher Nolan's the only guy that ever thought Kubrick was brilliant.
No, I don't think he would even say that himself. But he does say that he considers Stanley to be one of the major influences of his work.
It was the
Well, he's a major influence in everybody with a brain. You're here because of Kubrick.
Christopher Nolan was a huge force behind having this re-release for this year, though, and having it restored. So he demanded that Warner Brothers do not change it or frame it, which they apparently had intended to do. Not shorten it, lengthen it. Was it 19 minutes were cut from it? Is that right? 19 minutes were cut from the film prior to its release.
Yeah, but nothing of consequence.
Yeah.
Nothing of consequence. No major scenes. You know, they may have shortened the extravehicular activity a little bit, so that it took a little shorter time going from the ship to in the pod, but nothing important.
I mentioned before you came on that I'd like to pay tribute to Douglas Rain, of course, the voice of hell. who has gone down in the top 12 or 13 as one of the great villains in cinema history, held the computer. He wasn't, you have a story, he wasn't the original voice of Hell, was he? Douglas Range.
Douglas Range, you mean, was not the original?
He was not the original voice, wasn't it?
Not for us.
Wasn't it Nigel Davenport?
No, well, Nigel Davenport did it for about a week, but essentially for most of the shooting that we were involved with, the voice of Hal was done by the assistant director, Derek Cracknell. And for us, the voice of Hal was something like Michael Caine. I don't like this, you know what I mean? Yeah. Daisy, give your arms such a, But you know, I would just like, I know you pay tribute, but I would like to personally pay tribute to Doug Rain. Considering he only worked 2 days on the film, and look what result. I mean, many people feel that this is the key character in the whole movie for a lot of people, and he was brilliant.
How long were you working on both of you working on the film for, from beginning to end?
4 months, maybe 3 or 4 months.
I think you stayed on 5 or 6 weeks after.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
The actual, of course, the construction of the film from beginning to end was
3 years.
Enormous.
Well,
3 years, yeah.
Long time. Now, is anybody here want to ask Keir or Gary a question? Can you please stand up and let us know what you want to say? Come to the microphone.
I think they have a mic over there.
They have a microphone just down here. Just pop down and away you go. Ask a question.
We have a tape.
So, Gary, as an admitted fan of Stanley Kubrick, what was it like to, as an admitted fan of Stanley Kubrick, what was it like to not only meet him, but to work with him?
What was it like to know him, to work with him? I also gambled with him. Kubrick loved to play snooker. You know that game, snooker?
Yeah.
Well, snooker, Stanley had a great big antique snooker table in his castle. And I was a ruffian as a kid. I played pool, snooker, I did everything bad. And so one day I'm playing Kubrick, and they have a thing called the crutch. So when you have these really big tables, you have a crutch. You take the pool cue and you put it on top of the crutch. You use it when it's an awkward angle. So what I would do is, I was an athlete as a kid, I'd just go to my left hand. And so one day Stanley said, you know, every once in a while you go to your left hand instead of using the crutch. I said, yeah. He said, are you left-handed? I said, well, I'm a little bit of both. He said, what would happen? Because I was always beating him. He wasn't all that good a player. He owned the table. But there was no tax on it. And so anyway, he said, what would happen if you played me left-handed all the way? And I said, I'd probably still beat you. So every time after that I played him, I had to play him left-handed. And I have to honestly say he won a couple of times.
I'd just like to add that working with him was, I just worked on another film before I did 2001, which is Bunny Lake is Missing, with Laurence Olivier. It was the most horrendous. I loved working with Laurence Olivier, but the director was a horror. He was a bully, he was a screamer, he loved to humiliate his actors, and that was Otto Preminger. If you ever saw a war film that he directed, that he was in as an actor, called Stalag 17, about a prisoner of war camp in the Second World War, and Otto Preminger was the commandant. That was Otto on a nice day. Anyway, but working with Stanley, he never raised his voice. He was always calm, and you never had to be shy about suggesting something. Didn't necessarily mean he'd use your suggestion, but he was wonderful to work with.